Hey everybody, welcome to the Uncommon Truth and journeying with us as we pursue our purpose and the principles of performance. Today, Bob and I are going to try to find the uncommon truth about being stuck. Well, what does that mean? You know, I'd say I've been stuck many times in my life, whether it be just stuck in snow or mud when I'm driving my car, whether it be stuck in a view that I have over a specific topic, and or truthfully a belief that I have about something. So Bob and I are going to ask the simple question today of, why am I stuck? Or in other words, how do I get unstuck? So Bob, as we journey today, I'm going to just quickly give a few definitions of this, just to help sort of preset something based off a factual way of looking at it, and then we can get into the discussion of our ideas and our thoughts on this topic of being stuck. Well, to get unstuck, we're going to need some principles, and ultimately leverage to unstuck. If you're stuck in the mud with your truck, we need to go and dig down to hard, and then we need to use a ramp, a 2x4, or something that we can dig in and help lever ourselves out of the situation. And usually in life, those levers are our principles. Those are the fundamental truths that we govern or direct our behavior and our actions by. They're the things that drive us forward, or in a simple word, our beliefs, the rules and laws we live our life by. So Bob, how can we use the principles of performance to get unstuck?
Where have you been stuck in your life, Heath, before? Like, what are some of the areas of your life that you found yourself stuck in? And maybe it's okay to be stuck. Maybe it's okay for periods of time to be stuck in an area of your life. But I'm talking about areas that you never felt comfortable being in that position. You wanted to move forward. What are some of the common areas? I'm thinking about, for myself, I'm thinking about my physical being. I was stuck at a level of fitness, stuck at a certain weight level, that I wasn't happy with. And it took something to move me forward. I had to leverage a principle in order to move myself off that mindset, right? And I think one of the principles there, I'm thinking about myself, was I needed to have a concrete goal to work towards. So I found that if I'm going to be fit at the level I want it to be fit at, if I want to be moving forward with health, my own health, that I had to have a tangible, concrete objective or goal. So that's an important principle, is to set goals for yourself in important areas of your life. We call them the big rocks, right? The big stones. You got to have concrete, tangible goals to work towards. So as soon as I did that, as soon as I have a concrete, tangible goal that made sense to me, that I was excited about, I found myself more motivated in that area. Then I started to set little mini goals for daily exercise, eating well, cutting back on the alcohol consumption, these sort of things. So I'm just giving you an example of one of the areas, but I was kind of interested in some of the areas that you've been stuck and that you wanted to change.
Well, we've talked a lot about form of life, and I can honestly share multiple stories of being stuck in all areas of the family and friend relationships, and occupation, my work, and career changes, to my fitness and health levels and health and wellness due to diabetes. And they all, Bob, came back to a mindset or a belief that I had at that moment. And I had to change my belief, my state. Ultimately, I had to change my focus. I had to change the language and the things that I believed and said about myself and about the circumstance. And then ultimately, I had to take action and step forward. So An area that there's so many. I've just got a flood of thoughts going through my head right now. I'd say let's start with my career. My career, I had.
But for our listeners, that is the truth. The truth is that life is a big thing, but there are these really important form of life areas that if you make intentional movement in, and this is a principle of high performance, is be intentional in the big areas of your life, the big rocks of your life, like family, like friends, like occupation. And it's not about advancing your life so much it is about picking and choosing the areas that you want to close the gaps on, that you want to improve on. So go ahead, share with your share.
Well, I think it immediately all change, right? All change starts with awareness and then an acceptance. We are just oblivious. We don't know what we don't know. And that starts with me. And Bob, you walked through this journey with me as I was going through the journey of leaving the Vancouver Police Department. You know, I'd been there for just almost 16 years. I'd become a diabetic. I love the job. I love the people. It's a calling, right? That type of work. I haven't met a policeman that doesn't want to help people. Sometimes it doesn't work out always ideally that in life that it works that way, as we all know. People make mistakes, but the point is that I came to an awareness that this specific job wasn't going to take me to where I wanted to be in all three areas of my life: my body, my health, the lifestyle, the shift work, and I can go on for that, but I had to decide, no, I wanted more for my health. And to be healthy is ultimately the most important rock we have to put in our jar of life. If you don't have health, you have nothing. And that's the mistake that most of us make, is we spend our life, our time, getting and chasing wealth and money to only achieve it, and then have to spend our wealth on trying to buy back our health. Bad scenario. Bad. And I can say that because I've lived it. So that awareness was critical. Then came the acceptance of the fact that I wanted change. So I had to accept where I really was. What was my life at? And then I had to come to the conclusion that I wanted more. That more became a dream. So, you know, as we've talked many, many times, we got to dream things before we can make a decision. But once we decide, we need to make and document it so that we have a clear plan of action and we know what we need to do. And that starts right down with my belief in myself. And I had to really dig deep and go, I am able. I can go on my own into business and be successful. And you, Bob, were a big part of that, you know, with our group, and a part of that, taking the plunge. Most people who talk, we go, what? You're giving up your pension, you know, all the security that you get within a government job, and on it went. But the truth is that I was stuck in my mind and in my beliefs. And I had to realize and believe in myself that I could do more. And as soon as I packed my chute, I was challenged by a very good friend, a group of friends, to jump and pull the chute. And when I did, I couldn't believe the change that happened in me personally. I should say the changes that began to happen in me personally, and how basically God provided, and just how blessed I was for acting in faith and moving forward. And so to get unstuck really required, ultimately, I think it comes down to our ideal acronym, Bob. It took a requirement that I am accountable for my life, and that I'm capable, I am able, and that anything I put after I am is my truth. And I had to change my mindset about who I am.
Yeah, excellent. Heath, excellent story. Um, Lots of people, myself included, have been stuck in relationships with people too, friendships, brother, father, mother. We get caught in these patterns of behavior. Really, I think, are habits about how we see the other person, and then thus we start to deal with them in certain ways. And as time goes on, maybe as we start to grow, we become dissatisfied with those relationships, or we become unhappy with the relationships, or they're not as stimulating as they used to be. And I like the concept of being intentional in these relationships, so you can become unstuck. You don't have to see your mom or your dad as an example, as you've always seen them. You can take a look at them and repicture or re-image the relationship you want with them, to have a more deeper, richer, more meaningful experience every time you interact. I think in most situations. So I'll just relay a short story there, is that my dad had stopped, it was a terrific father, um, but he had stopped hugging me and being affectionate to me probably around age 7 or 8 years old, because I was his son, right? And men of that generation didn't spend a lot of time hugging their sons. At least my dad didn't, or saying "I love you," or he never mentioned those words to me. Um, but then, as I started to grow, I found our relationship almost like withering on the vine. We didn't have a lot to talk about. And then, as I started to learn about leadership, especially self leadership, I realized that I had an obligation to act in a leadership way with my father. If I wanted that relationship to improve, I had to kind of take the reins of the relationship, at least make some overtures. So I really thought about this, and actually planned becoming unstuck in that relationship. And as I was about 26, 27 years old when I planned to actually hug my dad, probably for the first time since I was 7 or 8 years old. Intentionally gave him a hug, and a more uncomfortable situation I had not endured was hugging my dad after all those years. Um, but he returned the hug. It was uncomfortable to start, but he returned the hug. And then I stepped back and said, "Dad, I love you." And he kind of mumbled under his breath, I love you too. But that was the breaking of the ice. From that moment on, it became easier and easier and easier. And our relationship became totally unstuck. And it actually went on, we were like on steroids for father-son relationship for the next, I would say, 12 to 15 years until he passed away. It kept growing year after year after year. The intimacy in our relationship kept increasing, our communication kept increasing, and it was a real breakthrough, becoming unstuck. But again, going back to your principles, I had a mindset about my dad that I had to change. There was a leadership and responsibility and role that I accepted, and I had to take action. I had to take action, and that action led to all sorts of new actions, and it just became an intentional part of my life. Is what am I going to do this time to improve the relationship with my father? And I see that as kind of that became a template for me, for my friendships, for my relationship with my wife, for relationship with my kids, and it continues to this day. It's like, got this leadership role. How am I going to build this relationship? What am I going to do? What actions am I going to take? What needs to happen for this relationship to get to the next level? Becoming unstuck.
Right on, bro. That's a good example of really making that decision and being clear. Because if you're not clear, you can't be intentional on what are the priorities or big rocks that we have to move and put into our life, right? So knowing our big rocks, what are those outcomes, the things that are the most important? And it relates to a story that Bob, you and I heard and I've heard this multiple times, but I'm going to repeat it, is I was at this seminar and I was learning a lot, and they just said, so what is a full life? And the instructor shared and put a big jar up on the desk, a big glass jar. And he said, what is it that's really important to you? And people put out a whole bunch of things, and he picked up these rocks and put them in there. And then he said, is it full? And a whole bunch of people in the group went, yeah, it's full. Then he reached over and grabbed a bunch of gravel. And he poured the gravel in over the big rocks. And it filled up the space around all those rocks. And he then asked, is this a full jar? Is this a full life for you? And he gave examples of these different things, right? The rocks having a child, for example, for some people. And then, well, they have a child. Is it full? And then all the other activities that go around that child are the gravel. And it fills it up. Well, is your life full? He then grabbed a jar of sand. And he poured sand. And holy crow, there's more room in the jar. And it filled up space among the gravel. And he asked the same question. Well, some of us are starting to get smarter now and started to realize that you don't have a full jar. Now, a bunch of people still, well, yeah, it's fully full now. You can't get anything else in there. And then he grabbed a glass of water. And he filled the jar up and overflowed it. And he says, okay, the jar is full. And then he said, if we really wanted to get into physics, we could say it's not full either, because we can go to quarks and atoms and all kinds of other things. The point of the story is that if you fill your life with the sand, gravel, or just the water, the small things, there's no room for the big rocks to go in the jar. It will overflow. What we all need to do is dream big. Decide what the big rocks are. Write it down. Document what those big rocks are. That's called making a plan. And then do it. Because if you don't put the big rocks in, they won't fit.
That's right.
And I just,
and
I felt
the
that was
container
so
in that.
Bob.
Yeah, the container in that story is the time of your life, right? You only have a
Correct.
certain amount of time too. So you gotta, if you wait too long to figure out what the big rocks are, there won't be any time left either. So poignant story, very important. And a lot of people start to discover these big rocks in their 20s and 30s. They start to put it together, but a lot of people miss the boat. You mentioned having a child, right? If you wait too long to really figure out what's important for you, maybe you miss that opportunity. You find yourself in your late 30s and that opportunity has passed you by, or maybe you haven't. Maybe is saving money, right, is important too. But if you start saving money in your 40s, you've lost the big compounding interest principle. Very difficult to save if you've missed 20 years of your life, 25 years of your life, as two examples, right?
So critical. I think we realize, and most of us, when we're young, we don't realize how valuable time is, how important that time is. The next thing I'll never forget was, Les Brown. I was listening to him one day, and he talked about, there's two important dates in our life, right? One, the day we're born. The second date is the day we realize why we're born. That comes through a seeking process, though, and through living life. Because at the end, there will be a date on an end date on our epitaph. And life is the dash, the time between them. That's the jar that we're each given. Now, we can allow fear. I've allowed fear to slow me down many, many times in my life. And as I'm growing, I like to think the fact that I'm starting to be able to address it quicker and face that fear, identify the fact that that's just a false event or evidence appearing real. So what is the truth? Ask the questions and then move forward. So ultimately, I think to get unstuck, we really got to dig deep, Bob, and we've got to go in and be willing now to do what we need to do. And now, in my mind, means, okay, what needs, right, are required? What opportunities do I want to seize? Those children, as you mentioned, every idea we have as a child that we either birth or we don't. And then the W, when and what am I going to do about it? And the answer to it is in the very word itself. Now. There's no time like right fucking now. Right? And that's where, you know, the one thing book was so amazing. What is the one thing I can do right now that by doing it will everything else easier or unnecessary?
Take a look at that. I was just talking to a gentleman, Heath, the other day, an older gentleman, a little bit younger than me actually, but he was saying that he was just happy to be getting up in the morning and kind of being allowed to do what he could do. And during that conversation, he had expressed that he was quite unhappy with his career, quite unhappy with his financial situation, quite unhappy with his health. So those are three major areas he was unhappy with, but yet he was just happy to get up the next day. So he has not intentionally looked at the things that he can do. He hasn't looked at those areas. He hasn't set goals. Maybe he doesn't know about the principles of high performance. He doesn't understand that he has more control over how the rest of his life will go. And people that go to the Uncommon Truth website and get can get a little bit of guidance on this sort of stuff. So I want to,
well said.
Suggest that
Uncommon
people can
Truth
read
Thought Life.
Uncommon Truth Thought Life. And, a big part of motivating yourself, a big part of becoming unstuck is that mindset. And to unlock the mindset, often new information is very helpful. New way to look at things very helpful. So there's so much help available to spark a new idea, which can motivate people. So if you feel stuck, there are many methods, many ways to become unstuck, but take the first step. Make a call, check out stuff online, do something for yourself. It all starts out with that intentional action.
Bob, that's really well said. Life really stands for living intentionally focused on executing. And execution is really just the habits and rituals that we're doing daily. And it doesn't need to be big, massive overhaul. It needs to be baby steps sometimes in certain areas. Pain is the partner of growth, and we're all in pain. It gives us an opportunity to grow, learn, and be able to identify the things that we need to change. Because if we didn't have pain, there would be no identification that we don't like this. So we really need to have an attitude of gratitude towards pain, right? Because that in itself triggers the question of why. So the big question that I would say is it's important for us to really be clear and intentional, as you said, Bob, on our outcomes. But even more important than the end destination in mind, we really need to discover why we want to go there. So you need to have the plan. and clarity on where you're going. And you got to know why you want to get there, because the second we say, I want to go somewhere, there's resistance. Things are going to happen in life that's going to try to slow us down, whether it be people, whether it be other circumstances, jobs, finances. There could be many, many reasons, but there's resistance. And we really need to be clear that it's going to require consistent daily effort. It's not a one-time thing. Make a big jump and we've got it sorted. No, it's about us being willing to embrace uncertainty and to make the small steps. How do you move that truck? Like I said right at the beginning, it takes a small board to create leverage so that you can use what you have. This truck still uses its power. It just needs a little help, leverage to move forward out of the stuff that's keeping it stuck. So my encouragement for myself, right, and for us, Bob, is we're on this journey of seeking the uncommon truth, right, about how to live our ideal form of life. I'd like to ask all of you to join us as we seek to live our ideal form of life. And how are we doing it? We are daily pursuing our purpose and trying to learn the principles of performance. It's not an arrive. This never ends. And it was David Goggins who made that statement. He's running one of his ultra marathons and he just realized there's no fucking end. Every day is day one. So give ourselves grace, get up and go. Because yesterday's done, can't fix it. Tomorrow's not here, it never comes. We got right now to make those good choices. So my encouragement is, as Bob did, journey with us, because we're really trying to, every day, just get unstuck. Just use leverage. Create the focus that's going to change our life. And get around the people, proximity, that are going to help us leverage and move forward in our life. Bob, what do you think on those comments for us in putting the rocks?
Well, I think that's you're absolutely right, Heath. But I want to encourage people that when you have clear purpose and when you know the areas that you want to improve, let's say you chose to improve the relationship with your spouse or your girlfriend or something like that. It's not an onerous thing. It's not something that becomes it's an onerous change. It's a fresh look at doing things differently, and it's very creative. It's a very creative, exciting process to wake up in the morning and invent new things to do to drive your department forward if you're a leader in your department, or do something special for your significant other, or think about your children in a different way, and think about do something with them, take some action to show them that you care, that you love. I mean, it's a very creative thing that happens. That's probably out of the ordinary. It certainly is not in the mediocre range of things. It's a very creative process. And I know that Heath, you get up early in the morning and you have a meditation habit that you have. That's a wonderful time to be creative. It's a great heads up from a lot of people is to take that quiet time in the morning to think about your day ahead of yourself. And then as we go through the day, right, those special times during the day that we don't think are special, where you're driving the car somewhere, but you turn the radio off and you just think creatively about what's going to be happening in that business meeting, or what's going to be happening in the evening, or if you're coaching teams or something like that, or what you can do that's special and different and impactful. And so I want to encourage people that those daily habits and the new thought processes, they evolve over time, but they're exceptionally exciting, exceptionally creative, and really are fun, man. They're the best thing you can do, is to take it day by day.
Hey, Bob, what just came to mind is that it really comes down to the questions that we ask. And what I found in my life is that I've asked, in my opinion, why is an important question, but why is a circle question. It never arrives at a final destination. It's a continually ending question. The most effective questions are how, what, how, and who. Who questions. When you are clear on what you want and you ask the question of how can I do it, quite often resistance will arrive and go, well, I don't know this, I don't know that, I don't have this skill. Perfect. That should lead you to the most important question. Who does? Who do I need to be in proximity to? So our invitation is to go to theuncommontruth.life, check us out, and look at the Ideal Form of Life Power Pack, and look at our Ideal Form of Life program for you, if our intensive program, which will be available very soon for people. And then for all of you who are really wanting to grow, and you are a leader, you are in business and managing your own business or managing people, or you're an athlete that's trying to go to the next level, or like me, a diabetic that's just trying to live a life that's an uncommon, healthy life. Well, you're going to want to check out our high performance leadership and our high performance teams programs. And so we really invite you to join us on this journey of seeking the uncommon truth, pursuing your purpose, learning the principles of performance on how to live an ideal form of life. So thanks for journeying with us today. Bob, I'm really grateful for this discussion that we've had just on how to get unstuck. So I'm going to just summarize it. Do you have any last summary comments that you'd like to make, Bob, before I do kind of a quick wrap up?
No, but I would say that listening to you talk today was inspiring, Heath. So I've got a travel day today, right? So I've got to travel for 6 hours, and it's by car. But you know, when you talk about these sort of topics, you start to think creatively, what we can do. And so I've got a couple of neat thoughts. I think I'll stop for a hike on the way home. You know, do in an area that I've not been at before, and I love to hike, and so why wouldn't I make that part of the trip? It'll delay me by about an hour, but I've got a lot of flex time, and to have that peak experience will be really good for me. So I want to thank you for that bit of inspiration today, my friend. Thank you.
Well, Bob, one of the things that you and I are really passionate about is energy health and energy health management, and learning to take those micro breaks to really invest in ourselves, in our body, into our mind, and into our spirit of the essence of who we are. And, you know, you said something really clear, and that you and I both believe here, is that the uncommon truth about being stuck is that we really have to live intentionally focused on executing. And that really means that I need to be aware and accept where I am today, because it's not where I'm going to be tomorrow. I need to be clear on the goal and the outcomes that I want, know where I want to go and who I want to become, which means the root of becoming means to be that right now. Well, how do I do that? I decide why I want to be that. And once I've decided, I need to really focus on dreaming big, being creative, as you just said, Bob, and continuing to make decisions that move me forward to that destination. And it's easier to do it if we document it and we go back to it, because we can measure ourselves, because we should only be comparing ourself to ourself of yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? And that's critical that we accept and be aware of where we're at, but that's not where we're staying. We're moving forward. So let's all take action. Let's use leverage. That starts with our mindset, with our focus, our language, and our physiology, what we're doing to take control of our state. That's up to us. If it's going to be, it's up to me. So I'm committed to that. and committed to seizing the opportunity to focus on the big rocks in my life and to get the biggest sticks I can to create leverage to move me forward, to achieve the outcomes that I want. And that's really what high performance is all about. Performance is the accomplishment of an action, a task, and we can all do that. So guys, we really thank you for joining us today on this discussion of getting unstuck. And we just encourage you to check us out at theuncommontruth.life. You can also search for us at The Uncommon Truth on YouTube and Facebook. We have a page, as well as all the podcast apps. We're up there as well. As we continue to grow with you, we thank you for journeying with us as we ask the questions, seek the answers to find the uncommon truth. Until next time,
Thanks, Heath.
God bless.